Hi, once. So we'll start in a while, and this will be discussing on the understanding, and the discussion will encompass um, the major sectors in which intellectual property rights can be generated. And the only good process is to go into the process of filing multiple priorities in terms of a strategic move. In intellectual property rights, we have a lot of strategies. I mean, loads of people will come up with their own set of understanding of what intellectual property rights is all about. However, what is important here is there's a it's not a difference, but what is the commitment of understanding intellectual property rights from the timeline point of view? Because every not even every 6 months, every month the tech is changing in terms of the data set. We talked about this earlier also, that John McCarthy and team had already developed the basic framework. And if we think that is the basic framework, is the question we need to answer. If we understand that, and people who come with a computing background, it's not that you need to know basic Fortran and all those basic languages. No. What you need to know is what is the problem you're trying to solve, and how sustainable or how sustainability is achieved, whether it's in the gaming industry, whether it's in the I would say nature, in terms of how intellectual property rights is going to change the major landscape of what is happening right now. And from that point of view, the understanding of cloud servers, the understanding of how the data can be crunched in terms of compressing the data, and all these compression technology, particularly in the data sector, it has already been done by zillion companies all over the world. It's not that anybody is reinventing the wheel. The only contention here is because in many cases you will see loads and loads of patents are granted, and these companies, whosoever these companies are, I'm not saying any particular Fortune 100 company or 1,000 company or the first 10,000 Fortune companies. No, the point here is the fee structure, the alignment, and particularly, I'm talking from the point of view of India, because India works very differently as compared to its neighbors also. If we have to compare, we'll compare it with China. China is close ended, they already have their walls guarded very well. Say, for example, there is ride hailing service Uber. The same thing has been replicated and is known as Didi in China. So, China made sure in the very early stages of when they knew that x number of people are going to come online for the very first time, how they have to be guarded. And these all small steps were taken by China in the lockdown. So if you see their policy making from 2020 till now, every day they are making the policy making. But the media, the Indian media, what they're discussing, they're discussing about the PM and all the politics. Let me tell you, we have to focus on the policy making. We have to focus how to make people understand the sustainability, how to onboard new folks onto the online media, which is maybe I would rather say there are still so many unconnected people for web 1.02. But do they want to be online is the question we have to leave up to them. But the point of contention here is sustainability has to be understood to make everything, I would say, the carbon footprint has to be negative, or the overall stuff cannot be based on the electricity value. The overall stuff cannot be built on the UPIs which we are doing in terms of the transactions. I mean, the the whole understanding of this the word blockchain and the word web 2.0, web 3.0 is so misconstrued. I mean, the best of the minds, if they say so, it is the best of the minds. It's nothing to do with the UPI transactions, what amount of transaction you're doing, or what is the time stamping of those transactions. Because in the blockchain world, we are taking all the UPIs. I mean, any payment interface transaction, we have now started taking it zero, because purposefully I created a zillion data set. I mean, one a almost 2 years back, because those transactions were done for creating that data set, and it was just a sample data set. So the point I'm trying to make here is July onwards, July 2025 onwards, and before that, we take anything and everything as zero. I mean, at least we have understood, or the folks, or the the main stakeholders have understood, there has been a lot of garbage in terms of intellectual property rights. Because even if the patent is granted, even if the company is paying the annuity fees, it doesn't mean that patent has any validity, because nobody is objecting to those patent application, and particularly in the telco sector or anything to do with the communication. So telco is not that it's only talking about xyz kind of technologies. No, when we talk about telecommunication or anything, wherever there's a communication network, wherever communication network is being utilized, that comes under the ambit of the infra, which has to be built for the IT sector. And the worst thing which has happened, or something which has not been talked about, or there was a main lobby which was handling that, was just screwing up the data. You cannot screw up the data. I mean, if the input data is not correct, whatever you do, the best minds can work on it, it will never ever result in a data set which is good enough to do a business or execute anything in the online world. So whatever has been done till now, take it as zero. I mean, anything and everything. I mean, the easiest thing is to make it simple. When we simplify things, simplicity is the best. So whatever data set, I mean, anything and everything is equal to zero. So wherever the formulation is, just take it equal to zero, and then you can just reinvent the wheel and see what has happened. Because I can vouch for that. Only once it happened that um, when I did FTO, which is freedom to operate, um, in the freedom to operate, only once it happened that I was not able to find something which was very similar. And the point here is, it means that in most of the cases, 99.9%, you can, or if the other party is good enough, because there's a lot of money involved, because the oppositions and everything, it is also a cartel. And to break that cartel anyhow, what is important here is intellectual property rights has to be a giving right. What is a giving right? It is like creating the pools which have been created. I mean, whether it's IBM, whether it's the other country, other companies and the countries, you have to pool the resources. Once you pool the resources, it's a win-win situation for everyone. And that also leads to sustainability, because sustainability is also to do with the kind of travel you're doing. I mean, if you're traveling and you're keeping your carbon footprint high, that is not sustainability. Sustainability has to come from within. The individuals, the stakeholders, the company main framework, they have to be sustainable enough to even embrace what sustainability is. This is one point. The other point I want to discuss here is where I saw in last 24 hours a lot of discussion between different online enterprises selling stuff and saying that we will deliver in 10 minutes. I mean, I have been talking about it, and I'll just reiterate everything once more. First of all, the consumers don't need things in 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes. We cannot put the life at risk of the rider who is riding the vehicle or the carriage or the cycle or whatever. Because this mindset, see, not many people would be able to appreciate, but this mindset of delivering stuff in 10 minutes is causing them to think that everything can work like this. It doesn't work like that. I mean, in the real world scenario, you should be patient enough to get things done. Many a times the other party was going to misbehave, because that is how they are tuned, because they're living so many lives. I mean, as I talked about, there's something called as online life, there's something called as offline life, this is the hybrid life and whatnot. Even there are few people, they are so tuned in onto the internet or to these online channels, OTT and everything, they don't know what they're doing. And that is one reason these OTT has to be regulated. I mean, the regulatory bodies, the way they have been doing it for the movies and all, the regulations has to come onto these, whether it's Geo Hotstar or whether it's any of these OTTs, because these OTTs itself is not being regulated. And when you don't regulate things, these kind of situations happen, which is happening on a regular basis, and particularly these situations are coming from India. So that has to be seen on a larger picture. That being said, the other part is like the good thing of this brand Swiggy is like if you are a black customer and you're ordering something, you can always opt for, I mean, if the order is coming, 40, 45 minutes, whatever the eco stuff they are doing, it's a good thing. I mean, as a user or as a consumer, if you're selecting that, maybe you're getting, 5 rupee fiat currency as a reimbursement. But what is important here is you're embracing humanity. Sustainability also includes, being more human at any given point of time. It's not that you have to treat everybody equal. No, the point here is whatever you're doing, you should be sustainable with your thoughts. And probably I'll be the kind of work we are doing in different capacities, we are going to do these human capacity building workshops. It has nothing to do with coaching, it is more with the sensitization. And this is not a business model. Everything cannot be a business model. You have to get into the CSR efforts. And CSR doesn't mean that you donate something then only the CSR happens. CSR is the way you think, what you do, how you treat the people around you in whatever capacity. That is what is needed right now. So the overall understanding here is, if you're thinking of intellectual property rights, the simplest way, if I talk for July, just for this month, file multiple priorities. If your business is good enough or whatever you have done and you think it is innovative enough, there are billion things where you can talk about. Okay, it's an idea, this is innovation, this is not an innovation, this is business method, forget everything. If you need just the patent pending tag for the marketing stuff, go do it. Don't wait for any assistance, and just file it. Once that is done, the filing is done, you're protected in terms of you have the first filing date, that is called the first filing date. And particular innovation can have multiple filing dates. That means the protection of something which is being talked about starts from the date when it was first disclosed. So one patent application can have multiple priorities. That is one point. Another thing is, from the first filing date, at least the current law says within 12 months you have to file international if you want to go global. And from the standpoint view of where India stands today, my stance would be to file before the IB. IB is the International Bureau, which is headquartered in Geneva. You file there, you have to apply for a DAS code, do that, and use that as a marketing tool to enter multiple countries. So having that international patenting tag gives you a window where anybody can search you in terms in the online world. It is a much regulated database, easily accessible. That is where you get the I would say ROI. So whatever investment you are doing, that ROI will come to you in terms of a marketing technique. I would rather say it's a strategy to create intellectual property rights. No, it's a marketing technique. Once that marketing technique is done, the second most important step is to create your agreements. I mean, don't create one agreement. Maybe you have to create 100 of agreements just to, you know, safeguard yourself, not from today, not 5 years down the lane. You have to be, thinking, 100, 200 years beyond if that business is of that value. And that is what we have done in terms of, my invention, which is not only applicable in 5G, 6G, 7G, all the generative stuff, because I have been drafting pattern applications since, I mean, serious patent applications since 2007. So I know what I have done. And just to mitigate the framework which I had developed, I filed the patent application which I have filed, and for which I'm never going to file request for examination because I don't want it to be examined. It is a trade secret and it will remain as a trade secret. But yes, the algo is being utilized and it is working fantastically. Thank you for watching out the video. If you have any questions, just put your questions in the comment box and somebody from the team will get back to you. Have a great day ahead. Bye bye.